Today, I'm going to show you how to make the most chill lo-fi beat I think I've ever made in my life. It's been getting darker, it was raining outside, it's been getting colder. I haven't made a chill lo-fi pop style beat in a while, so I decided to give it a go. I have no idea where creative ideas come from, but I love it when something you weren't expecting comes along and it just gives you that like, I'm inspired and this sounds really cool and this is why I started music in the first place. It's so cool. I'm gonna break it down into all the details and give you all the little nifty producer tricks that I used to give it that extra bit of like, wow. And if it's helpful and you enjoy this video, then please do feel free to like, subscribe, share for more stuff like this in the future. But for now, take a listen.
Daylight fall to golden red, I'm in way over my head. And even if I'm not alone, still no loneliness is there in my mind. Can run away, what the hell does all of this mean anyway? Tell myself, maybe I should let this go, but I can't help but wonder.
Oh yeah, hey guys, it's Kobe McCool and welcome back to another video. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. You're epic for checking out the video and I really hope you enjoy it. And if you've been following for a while, you're the best. Let's dive in to a breakdown. Where did I start? Keys. Which I just made in Omnisphere. Not Omnisphere, Serum. What am I talking about? And the first thing I actually started with was this sort of arpeggio. I wish I could show you that with Serum playing, but my computer is just buzzing out. I just played it in and then adjusted the MIDI so I was happy with it, and then very quickly printed it out into a wave and first tip of the video, your synth sound, your main chord sound is so significantly powerful at determining the overall mood and the quality of the beat that you have. You can make the best drums in the world, you could have the best vocals, but for beats like this, you don't really want them to be too busy, so you have to be super tasteful with the sound choice. I then added in a sub from Serum. Also just added some reverb automation from a separate channel within the mixer here. If you've watched me for a while, you'll know I love to control reverbs, bring them up, take them away. I just find it's much better to do that than just to have a big reverb on all the time. So I've got my main synth, I've got my sub. The only other foundational elements that I need are my kick and my snare. Those are the ones I spent the most time on getting them to sound really right because they drive everything. I've doubled each of them, so the kick is just a nice heavy warm thud, but it's relatively muted, but I still wanted some high end, I wanted presence, but I didn't want an aggressive, like, let me show you a kick. I didn't want the kick to be overpowering in the high end, like this kick. I still wanted it to feel gentle, but I also wanted it to have presence when everything else came in, so I layered it with another kick. It's got some really nice saturation and high-end buzz on it that just fills out that top end of the frequency spectrum. It hits nice and hard, but it's not a house kick. Then the snare, I got a nice rim shot to start with, and then also paired it with a more muted, mellow lo-fi snare. It's essentially the same technique with the kicks, but with the snare. And then I sidechained that kick and that snare to pretty much everything. Bass, the instruments, and the sound effects. That is what gives it that lovely dynamic flow, but it feels like everything is moving as one. Also, the little slides and inflections that I put on the sub, just by having the portamento set to slide, goes a long way also to emphasize the ducking that comes in from the sidechain compression, because it slides and then boof, it's ducked by the kick. So now that I had my foundation built, it was just time to add in lots of tasteful embellishments in each element. So the one I started with was the piano. A trap that I could run into when putting the piano in is because there's no vocal in there and there aren't really too many other sounds in, it can be so tempting to be trigger happy with loads of counter melodies. So the challenge was to put in things that were tasteful but not litter the entire track with them. Sometimes I would get the piano to mimic the melodies that I had in the synth, like in this section here. Just brings everything back into unison, and then other times the piano would go off and do its own thing. But I would only put in 1 or 2 melodies here. And then from then on, it's mostly playing chords. Another key tip based on that is not to try and have every element as present as every other element all the time throughout your beat. You want them to ebb and flow. So sometimes the piano is brought to your attention because there's a little lick and a melody, and then it disappears into the back and just continues supporting whilst the synth pushes up, or whilst some of the drums or some of the sound effects push up. And you can do this with volume or melody and intensity and variation. When things are changing quite a lot, your ear will naturally be drawn to them, whereas when they stay the same, they will blend in a little bit more. Time to do the same thing with the drums. To begin with, I just kept it pretty simple, but I put that little tom in, which actually was very inspiring. It made me want to kind of really emphasize that because I just thought it was working really well. So I had this tom doing that pattern every now and again, up and down an octave. I made it a triplet which would almost stagger counterintuitively against the beat and make the beat fall into itself, because it goes da 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 boom and falls back in. And I wanted that not to be perfectly quantized. It's kind of nice that it has a bit of chug and flow. It keeps you on your toes. Then I just added in a couple of different hats and some foley. What I found when adding this type of percussion is that the velocity or the volume, it's so important in determining how well that sound pairs with your kick and your snare. For example, I added in this hat. When I added it in, I didn't have any of the other elements there. I had them up way too high, almost like this. But then when I started trying to add in other elements, it was just like, that hat is not working. It wasn't because there's actually anything wrong with the sound selection or even the rhythm and the patterns that I chose, although that's what I thought. It was actually purely just that it was too loud. And exactly the same applies with this other hat. I just thought it wasn't working initially, but then when I turned it down, I was like, oh, okay, actually it does work fine. So be careful with the volumes of your percussion. It's not just about the style of the sound. So overall, that is everything obvious in the beat, but the little shimmer of gold that we put on top of it are all the little sound effects that almost make the listening experience tactile. And again, like I was saying with the percussion, the volumes of these are so important. The main 2 atmospheres that I added were this rain lake, which when you turn it right up, sounds lovely on its own, but then when you play that with everything else, It just overpowers everything, but it was behaving well with everything else. As I was recording some vocals for this, the rain came on outside, so I just left the mic recording and took some rain just from hitting the iron roof that we just put on the studio. So with the two together, you just get this really lovely soft sound. Then, to make sure that your drums still maintain their emphasis, I would sidechain the kick and the snare to these sound effects so that they also duck when the kick and snare come in. And some of my favorite sounds, which are these little ice breaks. It's such a satisfying sound. And another satisfying sound that I added on was this little tape measure that I recorded whilst we were building the studio. And if you haven't checked out the studio build video yet, then I'll link it here. I was using a tape measure all the time. When pulling it in and out, I realized that it's actually a pretty cool sound, so I just recorded going slowly into the mic. It's actually a really satisfying riser or faller because as it comes in and the tape gets shorter, the pitch gets higher. Then the last element was I just took this little glitch sound and paired it with the tom so that it would add the same emphasis.
Daylight fold the golden red. I'm in way over my head.
I sent the information from that little glitch synth to the same reverb that I have the main lead synth loop playing so that they behave in the same way. So in these sections where the instrument reverb comes up, the reverb builds right up and then it's cut away completely.
Daylight fold the golden red. I'm in way over my head.
And then I just spent quite a while spinning around in my chair trying to come up with some lyrics, just trying to channel my inner lo-fi loneliness and come up with some lyrics that I was happy with. And I'm actually really pleased with that chorus. Hopefully I can develop it into a final song in the future, but we'll just have to wait and see. So yeah, that was that. Thanks very much for watching this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any other questions, leave them down in the comments or send me a message on my Instagram. I really look forward to sharing the next video with you, and you can probably click on one of those right now. But until then, bye.
Maybe I should let